acsportstips.com. This is our Week 4 game analysis of a dandy down in South Bend, Indiana, with the 18th ranked Michigan Wolverines traveling to South Bend to take on Notre Dame, who's sitting at number 11. It's going to be a great matchup. It's a 7:30 start under the lights in South Bend, and look for an electric atmosphere. Notre Dame fans feel like their team is back. They're sitting at number 11, and can head coach Brian Kelly and the Irish get the monkey off their back in terms of the Wolverines? Brian Kelly is 0-2 versus Michigan. Notre Dame over the last 6 years is 1-5. They look to pick up victory number 2 Saturday night. We'll have a prediction for this game Thursday morning on our website, www.acsportstips.com, along with the podcast first thing Thursday morning, so keep an eye out for that. We're just going to break down both sides of the ball for each team and give you some news and notes. Let's take Notre Dame. What can you say? A great game plan by Brian Kelly and his staff in picking up the victory last week in East Lansing against the 10th-ranked Michigan State Spartans. Quarterback Everett Golson stepped up and made plays, and he's a main reason why the Irish are sitting at 3-0. They had a good running game with Theo Riddick and Sierra Wood, and credit Brian Kelly with allowing Michigan State's defense to over-pursue and then catching Michigan State backside in the running game, which opened up the vertical passing game later in that affair, and that's why Notre Dame pulled away in a decisive 20-3 victory. Going into this game against Michigan, I think it's very simple for Notre Dame. I think you need to run and run and run on that Wolverine defense. It sounds crazy, but the Wolverines struggled week 1 against a very physical Alabama team. They had all summer to prepare, and they could not shut down the run. Notre Dame's offensive line has proved to be very physical, and look for Brian Kelly to try and wear down Michigan early and then use play action later in that game against the Wolverines. So that I think that's the game plan going in against Michigan this week. We also look for Brian Kelly. Tyler Eifert wasn't utilized as much last week. We expect him to get involved in the passing game as well, so expect an effort out of him using Eifert against undersized linebackers and pass coverage, and look for a good game plan out of Notre Dame. Tommy Rees is still waiting in the wings. He played in mop-up duty last week, and he's always on call should Everett Golson struggle. But till this point, Everett Golson built up a lot of confidence last week in that road victory, and that's a great sign for Notre Dame heading into this game offensively. Sierra Wood had a good game, and so did Theo Riddick, and now they have 2 dependable backs heading into this game against Michigan, so that's a very good thing if you're an Irish fan. Defensively, I think it's very obvious what Brian Kelly has built at Notre Dame now. At least with his front 3 defensive linemen, he has built an SEC caliber defensive front, and that is a major factor going into this game. He has big, thick defensive linemen that could stuff the running lanes, and they can run sideline to sideline, which keeps the pressure off of their linebacker and their team leader, Te'o, and that's what allows him to roam free and make plays. And I think that that's a key ingredient, and we think that Notre Dame should be a top 10 team based off of that defensive performance last week. They have, and Brian Kelly has built an SEC caliber defensive front, and it's going to be very difficult for Michigan in the running game to get some yards in the running game against Notre Dame. So I think it's going to be a very tough task for Michigan State and Denard Robinson to run on that front 3 of Notre Dame, and that could be a factor in this game. Defensively for the Irish, look for them to stuff the line of scrimmage and prove at least to the fans and to their defense that at least make Denard Robinson beat them in the passing game. Denard Robinson, a very lackluster performance to date. He's a great runner, but as a pocket passer, he struggled. Alabama exploited that. They're the number one rated defense in the nation. I tell you what, though, Notre Dame isn't that far behind from the defensive front seven. They are thick and they can run, and I think Denard Robinson's going to have a lot of problems passing on that defense of Notre Dame. He's only thrown 6 touchdowns. He has 4 interceptions, and we believe that would be the game plan heading into this game for Notre Dame and head coach Brian Kelly. Let's make Denard Robinson a pocket passer. We have said it. He has struggled in his losses last year against Michigan State and Iowa, both games on the road. He struggled because they forced him into becoming a pocket passer, and even though he's a senior, he hasn't taken the next step in the progression of the passing game. So defensively, I think you're going to see pressure both from the outside and up front to contain Denard Robinson and contain him in the pocket and force him to make his reads down the field. Whether he can do that or not, we'll see a little bit later in the week, but that's the defensive philosophy for Brian Kelly and his defensive coaching staff heading into this game for Michigan, going in against Michigan. The crowd is going to be up for this game. They're ranked number 11 in the country, Notre Dame. A victory over Michigan will most certainly propel the Fighting Irish into the top 10, and that will show that Notre Dame is back. Can they feed off that hometown crowd and have a dominant performance defensively over Shoelace Robinson, who at least last year burned them in the victory in Ann Arbor? So that's the key as well. Can Notre Dame defensively feed off that crowd and force Denard Robinson into mistakes? Offensively for Michigan, you need to be balanced in this game. They did get back Fitz Toussaint, but you look at their competition. They struggled opening week against Alabama. They came back with a lackluster performance at home against Air Force, and then they played UMass, which just became a 1A program this year, and they picked up a dominant victory, but I don't think you can judge that victory going into this Notre Dame game. Notre Dame is playing at an all-time high in terms of emotions. They're very disciplined. They didn't make a lot of mistakes mentally last week, and that's going to be a tough task for that Michigan offense to take advantage of. Right now, I think defensively, Notre Dame is playing as good as anybody in the country, and if you're Michigan, you're going to have to show a different type of game plan that you showed up until this point. Can head coach Brady Hoke and his staff do that? We'll have to see. Fitz Toussaint does add a different dimension in the running game. They didn't have him against Alabama. They are going to need him in the Notre Dame game, and whether or not Fitz Toussaint can get some yards against that Notre Dame front, if he can, that'll take some pressure off of Denard Robinson. If he cannot, that's going to make Michigan one-dimensional, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Wolverine offense. Defensively, for the Wolverines, I think it's simple. I think you have to blitz Everett Golson and force him into staying in the pocket as well, but forcing him to make his reads. I think you're going to have to force Notre Dame's hand and force them into a passing game, because Michigan State did not do that early. They sort of sat back and played zone. I don't think on the road Michigan can do that. I think they're going to have to blitz early and take some chances defensively in order to force Everett Golson and the passing game into mistakes. Whether they do that or not, we'll see a little bit later in the week. It's going to be a great game. We do have an opinion of this game right now, but we're holding back until Thursday. We're going to see how everything pans out. A note about the Wolverines: they were 2-2 on the road last year. They only played 4 home games. They opened up this year on the road, technically a neutral site, against the University of Alabama, and they did get blown out. Now they had 2 home games and they traveled to Notre Dame. How will that affect them heading into this matchup? We have to see. We're going to give our prediction Thursday, so just stay with us at www.acsportstips.com.